This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. Joining us today is Alex Walker, the CEO of Xplor Resources. Following a couple of bits of news flow this week recently, well, thank you very much for joining us today. Alex, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Mark, and thanks for having me on again.
Well, let's talk about the news that was announced yesterday. Then that's the award of the first copper porphyry exploration license under the new exploration strategy, which of course is funded through that $500,000 grant from BHP Xplor program, which we talked a little bit about last time. But this really is getting that kicked off, I suppose, isn't it, with the granting of the exploration license?
Yeah, absolutely. When Chris Van Wijk, our new technical director and non-executive director, was in country last year, this is one of the sites that he visited and got very excited by. It's important to note that what we're doing with BHP is pretty expansive. We've got a huge area of interest that we're looking at, and this is one small area that has already had a level of investigation. So we're really excited by our first license, but it's still just a really small footprint on what we're really hoping to tackle as part of this program.
Okay. And this site, how was it chosen? You say Chris had a very big role to play in choosing it. What made him decide on this area particularly?
Certainly. Well, there's quite a significant exploration approach that goes into this. Looking at a lot of these sites historically, they were classed as quartz systems, whereas actually the current modern day system looks at them as silica lithocaps in new porphyry models that are really only developed over the last decade. So you can use things like historical data reviews, which Chris did, satellite imagery, hyperspectral work to look at alteration mapping. And then, of course, traditional boots on the ground with highly trained geological eyes to try and understand these systems a bit better. So all three of those things went into selecting this site. And as you say, we're looking really forward to getting on the ground and doing some additional work.
And this is the area where there's sort of rich porphyry and what you say sort of skarn deposits for copper, of course, which is the main focus, but also anomalous gold as well.
Well, that's right. I mean, look, all of these things are indicators. We don't obviously definitively know there's an economic project there, but certainly having things like anomalous gold and copper at surface is a really, really good start to say that there's mineralization in the system. Now we just need to understand how big and how much. And so that'll be the work that we'll be undertaking this year. Okay. So what we'll look to do when the field season starts is initially we'll be starting with soil sampling grids, and then we'll be sending those off for full suite elements to get a really decent picture. I mean, we were talking about Chris and what he sort of brings to the table and all this, and it's that seriously in-depth geological understanding of these prospects. We spent a long time looking at porphyries for major companies across big porphyry belts in places like South America. So it's got a really good handle on these. And now I'm just sitting here watching, in awe as he has conversations with global experts in geochemical sampling, for instance, offers up a new strategy of approach that's a cheaper way to do something and might come up with a similar or better outcome, and having these guys go, yeah, that actually sounds like a great approach, and that works with our porphyry modeling system. So, for a geological novice like myself, I'm pretty in awe about it and really excited.
Good. Well, of course, the other bits of news that you've just touched on there is, of course, you are starting the exploration plan with the announcement of the exploration joint venture and, of course, the appointment of Chris as technical director. You've entered into a joint venture agreement with GeTech Group, who are a AIM-listed PLC, to explore for these sediment-hosted copper deposits in Kazakhstan. Before we get on to some of the plans, Alex, could you perhaps just briefly introduce GeTech Group, who they are and what they specialise in?
Certainly. So GeTech have a really significant database that was derived from the University of Leeds and other global universities, and data centers. And what they do is they apply really in-depth analysis, AI modeling techniques, and so on to this, what I believe is an unparalleled database to assess mineral systems. I'm not going to profess to understand the details behind it, I have to admit. The science is well over my head, but in looking at it and in the work that I've been lightly involved in over the last few months of discussions with GeTech, they take things like gravity surveys, mag surveys, seismic surveys, and lots of oil and gas wellbore data to understand basins and sedimentary systems and tectonic plate remodeling and so on. So this is really right back to first principles understanding of mineral systems, how they develop, and helping refine really significant areas into much smaller areas. There's no doubt that these guys are best in class when it comes to this. And in fact, interestingly, we were engaging with GeTech prior to starting the BHP Xplor program.
Okay.
But one of the parts of the BHP Xplor program is what they call Toolkit Week. And they put a bunch of service providers out there that do all manner of different services for exploration companies, and say, look, these are preferred service providers or recommended service providers that you talk to. And GeTech was on the list. So, there was a crossing of paths there twice, which was fantastic to see.
So GeTech will be doing the exploration work on the ground for you then. And I just understand as part of the agreement, the joint venture agreement, they can take 5% of the company on completion of the exploration licenses being granted. So, what's the model that you're working with here? How are the two parties, GeTech and East Star Resources, planning to work together under the joint venture agreement?
So it's about taking really large exploration areas and refining them to figure out really where you're going to find an economic mineral deposit. So GeTech have these huge data sets over huge areas, which will help that initial desktop work and help refine those areas. East Star is certainly helping with that with our own application of data. So we're taking maps and things like that from our own data collection inside Kazakhstan to help with GeTech's modelling. And then from there, they'll be refining areas, and we'll use the East Star expertise and logistics to get boots on the ground to refine them further, and then be making those initial applications. So it's really a combination of two quite fantastic skill sets to refine this targeting.
Okay, so this is when you talk about conducting a targeting exercise here, and then once you've done your targeting exercise, then you can apply for the exploration licenses, and you want this to be all in place for the field season around April 2024, so a couple of 3 months away to be able to get started in an exploration program. Is that right?
Yeah, certainly. We don't need to apply for license to do first pass geological traverses. So I think as soon as we want to get on the ground there, we'll be reviewing a number of different areas, and I expect, just like we did for AOGOS, a site visit prior to making the application to feel confident that you're applying for something where the next step is doing more detailed geological work. So I would expect that to be the same for the sedimentary basin.
Excellent. Okay, I wonder if we can talk a little bit about the appointment of Chris Van Wijk as the technical director. Of course, he joined only a month ago as non-executive, but now he has the role of a technical officer. So, how are you feeling about that?
I'm feeling really good, and I think, Mark, based on your background, you probably say his last name more correctly than I do. I say Chris Van Wijk, and he's not corrected me on it just yet, but I think you're probably more correct there. Look, personally, I'm over the moon. East Star has been demonstrating over the last 2 years just how good we are at executing exploration programs in Kazakhstan. I think we've done more than just about anyone in this space across different jurisdictions, different programs from drilling, heliborne electromagnetic, ground magnetic, IP, and numerous geological traverses and soil sampling. So we can execute these programs really efficiently and really well, and we're operating in Kazakhstan well. You parachute someone in with Chris's expertise, and you basically it lets us sit in the room with any major company, any major global mining company, and very much hold our own. Chris, what groups like BHP look for, as they've explained to us, what they look for is companies that they believe that can execute an exploration strategy and an exploration program as well as they could do it themselves or better. And in Chris joining the team, that unequivocally gives us that expertise. So I'm really, really excited about the opportunities that this is going to present for us.
Good. Well, of course, all we've talking about today so far is, of course, the new area with the agreement here, or the grant from BHP Xplor. But of course, so what about Vancouver? Of course, the sort of the core project of Eastar Resources. What's going on with Vancouver?
Oh, absolutely. And look, it's a really good point. I mean, the porphyry exploration program, the SET exploration program is very early stage exploration. And we're looking for tier 1 deposits. I mean, these are globally significant deposits that we would hope to uncover in these regions. But the last 2 years, as you're aware, we've been focusing on projects which have a high return on invested capital, prospectivity, in regions that are infrastructure rich. So they have very low capex and are easy to get into development for a smaller company like Eastar. And so we have been progressing that, and we've done I think a really good job. I know the market's been waiting for an update on the Vancouver modelling. We have that, and we are getting into a position to update the market on that in the very, very near future. So I'm really excited about Vancouver and what we're going to be offering to the market in the not too distant future, and getting stuck in this year on further drilling on Vancouver. And on top of that, the additional exploration targets in the VMS licenses, which we've spent the last 12 months working up as well. So I really hope we'll be testing somewhere between 3 and 5 additional exploration targets in that region this year.
Okay, well, that's good to hear, Alex. So 2 potentially exploration programs going on from the start of the season, from perhaps April onwards. Look forward to following the progress. But for now, thank you very much for your time. Alex Walker, the CEO of Eastar Resources.
Thank you, Mark. Take care.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.